Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this little pistol right here. It's a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Compact. So we reviewed the full-size model before. For those of you guys that haven't seen it, there should be a link up here in one of the corners if you guys want to check that out. But this one, of course, is designed to compete directly with the Glock 19s in terms of size and capacity. So I've been putting a few rounds through it so far. We've got about 400, so not a ton of rounds. I want to emphasize that, but I'm trying to get the review out relatively quick relative to when these have been released. So what we're going to do, of course, is let the dogs take a look at it and then check out the details of this pistol, and then at the end we'll wrap it up and let you know what I think of it overall.
We've been shooting a mixture of mostly Minuteman munitions with a little Fiocchi 115 grain thrown in, but now we're going to see how it does with some hot stuff. So this is 124 grain Federal HST plus P. See how it handles with that. That little 6-incher down there is driving me nuts, but there's definitely more recoil, but the gun's large enough that it's not really a huge issue like it would be with like a Glock 43 or something, where you notice a big difference with the plus P stuff. What you see here is what comes with the pistol. Of course, you get a box, manual, and other things that you'll never use, like a pistol lock. However, we do have some interesting things here. So we have 4 different back straps, which we're going to get into here in just a second. You have a couple different mag extensions, and what these are for is to, if I can actually do it correctly, there you go, is to actually extend the 17 round mag just like that, and that way it'll make it flush fitting with the compact. So you can use the full-size mags in the compact should you choose to do so. Of course, that's going to extend the grip length there. It's going to also make you print a little bit more if you're carrying it inside the waistband, but it will give you 2 additional rounds. Now, one point I want to make whenever we're talking about these types of devices is that if you do choose to use it, make sure it's absolutely flush, because I've seen folks try to do mag changes with them like this and not be able to seat it. Now it's seated there, but trust me on that, I've seen it before, so just something to point out. And of course, we have 2 15-round flush-fitting mags that do come with it from the factory. Smith & Wesson makes great mags. I don't think they've ever had a problem with mags in the history of the company that I'm aware of, and the M&P mags are no exception to that. But one thing I wanted to get into here real quick before moving on with the details of the pistol is one issue that I have found with it. So here we have our standard backstrap in, and to change it out, all you're going to do is turn this little tool here on the bottom, pull that out, and that also works as your takedown tool, but that's how you remove your backstrap. So if you use the large one here and actually put that on there, there we go, and then replace the tool like so to, oops, let me get it down there flush. There you go. One thing I did notice is that with that large backstrap in place, the magazine doesn't drop free, and it's only with that one, but it's just something to point out. Of course, you can rip it, and if there were rounds in there, it would drop free, but just something to point out there for folks who might want to run that large backstrap. I'm not sure if that's on all the pistols, but it is on my example that way anyway. And as you can see there with the normal backstraps in there, not a problem at all. Now getting into the details, we'll start here at the bottom and sort of work our way up. One thing that I do like about the M&P pistols is this little sort of moon cut there on the bottom that helps you strip and rip magazines should you get a double feed. I do like that feature. It doesn't interfere with your grip at all. You don't notice it unless you're actually trying to rip mags out. So that is nice. Of course, one of the big changes on the M&P 2.0s is this grip texture. So there's pros and cons to it. So out on the range, I love it. It's very aggressive, and it feels very good. Makes the weapon stick to your hands, which I like, because generally speaking, I'm shooting in hot conditions, and guns tend to want to slip around on me a little bit out there with sweaty hands, and I've never found that to be the case at all. But the 2.0 has a very, very good grip texture. Now, the downside of that, of course, is that if you're carrying inside the waistband, it may be abrasive to your skin. Of course, that's going to be personally dependent rather, but there's a couple quick fixes for that. So number one, you could get some Talon grip tape and just wrap it around the outside, and it would, of course,
fix that issue real quick. And then you could also lightly sand down these areas and kind of get it to where the texture meets your personal preference. One thing that I like about aggressive texture is that you can always make it less aggressive, but if you have less aggressive, it's harder to make it aggressive. So just a point there on that one. Magazine release is not ambidextrous, but it is reversible for those of you guys who want to do that. The slide lock and slide release is ambidextrous, so if you want to lock slide back, you just push up on that, and that is one of the improvements over the original M&Ps, is that they added this little sort of reinforcing lever there, which makes it much less likely that when you actually insert around that it will auto forward. The original M&Ps did have that issue. I'm not sure it was really a big deal ever. It wasn't for me, but it did happen. So it is good to see that they resolved that. Of course, to let it go, you just push down and it will go home. Here we have our takedown lever, which we'll address here in just a second. Up front, we have our 1913 spec rail. What's nice about that is you can run pretty much any light laser combo on there that you want. Unlike, let's say, the Glock 19, which we'll get to here in just a second, that requires sometimes a Glock specific mount. The 1913 is pretty much universal. Getting into the slide, you see we do have the caution warning here on there. It says it can be fired with the magazine removed. In my opinion, that's a good thing, so it does not have a magazine safety. Now, Smith & Wesson offers a number of different models of these, with some with thumb safeties if you guys want that. I believe they also offer a model with a magazine safety, at least they did on the full-size ones. So we have our serial number here in the frame that I neglected to mention there on the frame. And then with the slide here, we have these sort of forward serration cuts there. Now, I guess they look good and they can lighten the slide, but the thing I don't like about them is if you actually see where the frame kind of bows out here, that's pretty much right where your fingers would be if you were going to actually do a press check or run the slide with them. So you kind of can't do it. Now, like I said, they look good and they do lighten the slide. If that's what you like, that's cool, but just note that you're probably not going to run the slide with them if you're somebody who wants to do that. The slide itself has an Armornite finish on there, which is basically Smith & Wesson's version of Melanite. Very corrosion resistant. The M&Ps have never had a problem with rapid slide wear or corrosion. Not that I've ever heard of anyway, not in my experience. We do have a loaded chamber indicator in there, lets you see into the chamber if you want to inspect it that way. On the back here, we do have very good fish scale serrations, just like the originals. I like them a lot. It's very easy to get a good positive grip and run that slide, regardless of the technique you use to do so. So I do like that. The sights on this one are just the factory 3-dot white sights, so no night sights, but of course, any of your M&P aftermarket sights will fit that on the M&P 2.0s, just like the 1.0s, so they are the same cut in that regard. So you can replace them if you choose to do so. However, they are steel sights. I do like them. They're very functional. They have a nice ledge there should you want to do one-handed manipulations. And really, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not like plastic sights like some of their competitors that will just fall off. Good solid sights, so nothing to complain about there. Before disassembling the pistol, we need to get into trigger pull, because that's always a sort of point of contention with M&Ps and people who are debating getting them. So we, of course, have our hinge trigger here, which is designed to prevent it from firing when dropped. It's just an additional safety. And basically, we have this area of slack right here, and then we hit a wall, and then we have a little bit of creep and a break. Our reset on the 2.0s is tactile and audible, as you guys just saw there. And with the 2.0s, I don't find the trigger to be a problem at all. I know a lot of folks say that with M&Ps, you want to get Apex tactical kits or some other aftermarket kits. I own a lot of M&Ps. I've never put an aftermarket kit on them. So sometimes I think folks are just kind of looking to buy skill rather than, fix a problem. But we'll try to measure it here. It's kind of a problem with that hinge trigger, but we'll press it as best we can. And you guys can see there, it's breaking right over 5 pounds on my scale. That's been pretty consistent across the board. So it's not overly heavy. I find no issue with it to shoot the pistol accurately. Both the full size and this one have done well in that regard. Now to disassemble, we're just going to lock the slide to the rear, inspect our chamber, make sure it is empty and there's no magazine. At this point, we're going to rotate our takedown lever 90 degrees, let the slide go home. I like to pull the trigger, but I should actually point out, since this is a review of the pistol, that there is a little yellow lever in there. If you pull that forward with this little tool, it will allow you to disassemble it without pulling the trigger. However, if you want to just pull the trigger, you can. So you see our guide rod there, and it is stainless steel, which is something I know a lot of folks like. And here's our barrel. It is a 4-inch barrel. It has 1 in 10 twist. And I know some of the earlier M&Ps, the 1.0s anyway, had some accuracy issues. I've seen none of that out of the 2.0s. Both my full size and this one have shot very well and have had no issues in that regard. As you guys can see, fit and finished inside the slide, very good, as you would expect from a Smith & Wesson barrel. Nice wide feed ramp on there to allow for feeding of hollow points like we talked about. We've had no issues with that. It's been very reliable in that regard, so can't complain there. And reassembly is very simple as well. Maintenance on the M&Ps is really as easy as any pistol out there. Time for the size comparisons, as you guys might have guessed from that introductory shot. So here's our full-size M&P 2.0. This one here has this 4.25-inch barrel. Reviewed this in the past with the tritium sights on there from Trijicon. And you guys can see there it's just a little bit longer there in the slide, if we actually line that up, just a touch. But the big difference, of course, is in the length of the grip with that 17-round magazine. That sort of makes sense. Everything else pretty much the same. So set that off to the side, and here we have the Smith & Wesson SD9VE, sort of Smith & Wesson's budget semi-auto gun. You see there, it's actually quite similar in size and the length there. The difference is the angle of the magazine sticks out a little bit farther, as you guys can see, but up there on top, it's a little bit fatter as well, but otherwise pretty similar in size for those of you that are familiar with that. The step down in terms of compactness, of course, is going to be the shield. This one here, you're going to be sacrificing, of course, some capacity, but it is much thinner, just to give you guys an idea of how that stacks up. There you go. You can see it's a little bit shorter there in the slide, a little bit shorter in the frame, but the big difference, of course, is going to be that thinness for those of you guys, especially those of you that carry inside the waistband. But very good pistols as well. And the big one I know you guys want to see is this mamma jamma right here, the Glock 19, right? So how does it compare? Stack them up. I'm going to roll in the dimensions of each sort of on the bottom of the screen here so you guys can see that, because it's going to probably be better than what you'll see just me stacking them up. But really, I mean, it's pretty much identical. To their credit, I believe Smith & Wesson made this pistol to be a direct competitor size-wise to the Glock 19, and I think that's to their credit. That is a smart decision. The Glock 19 is a pistol that people love in terms of size and capacity, the balance of it. People have loved it for years, and Smith & Wesson was wise to jump on board that train and meet customer demand for a gun that was going to match it. I mean, it's pretty much identical in terms of size. One thing that's nice about a company like Smith & Wesson releasing something is that the aftermarket really gets on board. So holsters really aren't an issue. We have the priority holsters here. This is their inside the waistband here. You can adjust the cant if you want to, but I've been carrying it like that and I've had zero issues with it. The abrasion there doesn't bother me. I know I brought that up earlier, but I've been reading on forums that a lot of guys really don't like it. So again, kind of a personal thing, but I haven't had any issues with it inside the waistband. One thing people always want to know about when it comes to, I guess, accessories or firearms for that matter, is price points. So right now online, as of today, if you look around, you're going to basically see these from $480 on a good day to $550 online. So not inexpensive, but not super expensive either. Pretty much in line with the competitive options out there. So you get Smith & Wesson, which of course has a long history of making very good guns. Their customer service, which comes with that, and one thing that's nice about the M&Ps, which competes again with the Glock 19 in a lot of ways, is the aftermarket support. Now, by no means are Smith & Wesson M&Ps as easy to work on as Glocks, but they're certainly not hard. There's a lot of things you can do to modify it should you choose to do so as the end user. Yourself, of course, there's a lot of accessories like we talked about, the holsters, a lot of lights and stuff that will mount on there, holster, rather light compatible holsters if that's what you guys choose to use. There's just really a lot out there for it, which is a good thing. So all in all, we've had a grand total of 0 malfunctions, like I said, but we haven't put a ton of rounds through it just because I was trying to get this review out relatively quickly. But I like it overall. I really do. It has that, I believe it's 18-degree grip angle that they say sort of points naturally. I would tend to agree with that. I have years and years and years of pressing out with a Glock, so I've kind of adapted to getting Glock online, but for a lot of people it doesn't point naturally. This definitely points a little bit more naturally for people who aren't used to, of course, that weird Glock grip angle. So I mean, I definitely like Glock still. I like this gun too as well. I like the full-size 2.0 like we talked about in that review, and this one's no different. It's just a little bit more concealable. Of course, you give up those 2 rounds, but it does give you the ability to throw it inside your waistband a little bit easier. And definitely one thing I would point out, and I kind of want to reiterate that, I guess I've touched on it twice, but that texture. So I carried it and we had 0 issues with it, but I I'm guessing some of you out there will. So again, a little bit of sandpaper or some Talon grip tape should take care of it though. So that's about it. If you guys have any questions about the pistol that I didn't cover here, by all means, you can post down below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. I hope to see you guys in the next video.